In March of 2012, Leo Messi would go on to score 5 goals in a single Champions League game against Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, he would lead headlines for the 7-1 win that night, but the other 2 goals were scored by a single player who was subbed on in the second half on his UCL debut and would be taken as a sign of the arrival of a future La Masia star for Barcelona's front line. But fast forward to 2024, the player was playing on the side of a second division Saudi team, having spent the majority of his career at Real Betis. So what happened to him? And was Messi really the reason he failed at Barcelona? Here is the story of Cristian Tello. Cristian Tello Herrera was born on the 11th of August 1991 in Sabadell, only 12 miles north of Barcelona, and by the age of 8 he was playing at CFU Canrul, a local team in Sabadell, where he would spend 3 years at their youth system before making a move to La Masia in 2012 at the age of 11. Here he would rise through the ranks in Barcelona until 2007, where he would be loaned out to Dam, a dedicated youth club under the ownership of Estrella Damm, the local beer of Barcelona. By the end of the season, his contract with Barca would run out and he would get signed to rival club Espanyol. There he would play for 2 years with the under 17 and 19 teams before making his pro debut with Espanyol B in 2010, playing 4 games, all as a sub, and scoring a single goal against his hometown club SE Sabadell. But that wouldn't be helpful, as Espanyol B would end up being relegated and with his contract, and then he would make a move back to Barcelona, playing with Barca B. He would miss out on the start of the season due to an injury, but he would go on to score 4 goals from 12 starts for the team. The following year, however, would see him level up his game with the reserves team, scoring 3 times and assisting twice earlier in the season, impressing Pep Guardiola at the time and earning himself his debut with the main team in an away Copa del Rey game against CE L'Hospitalet. Then he would be able to score his first 2 goals in a home game a couple of weeks later, ushering in a name for himself. He would wait until January to make his first appearance in La Liga against Villarreal, and would go on to start the following game against Real Sociedad, scoring from an assist from Leo Messi. A few months later, he would go on to score 2 goals as a sub in his first outing in the Champions League, but he would get shadowed by Messi, who scored 5 goals that evening, a record for a European knockout game. He would continue the season as a late sub, scoring 2 more goals and giving out 3 more assists, winning the Copa del Rey and finishing second in the league, before getting knocked out against Chelsea in the Champions League semi-finals, with Pep Guardiola leaving the club and getting replaced by Tito Villanova. This year, he would become a full member of the first squad, despite rumors of him leaving the club in the summer. He would go on to start in 12 games and score 7 goals and assist 4 times in the league, as well as get his contract extended until 2016. But he would fall out of favor with the manager, who wouldn't play him much in the Champions League. That wouldn't be as important to him, as Tito would step down from his role as manager to focus on his health, with Tata Martino replacing him. This would elevate his hopes of becoming a main squad player that season, but the arrival of a certain Brazilian that summer would shatter those hopes. His appearances would be few and far in between, scoring only 1 goal in the league and playing only 2 Champions League games. He would score a hat-trick in a Copa del Rey quarter-final game against Levante. But around the same time, reports would come out saying that his relationship with Leo Messi has been broken, with allegedly Tello being Messi's favorite bullying victim. An article under the title "The True Face of Messi" would go on to claim, as Messi would apparently say to Tello, "What are you doing? You're new here. You're a nobody. And pass me the ball. You were here to play for me." As the journal also claims that Tello was left in tears after these exchanges, a situation which the report claims was made even worse by the fact that the other players in the changing room blanked him even when he broke into the first team. The story remains firmly in the unconfirmed bracket, and honestly I don't think Messi would actually do this. And even if Messi did use the language in question, it's easy enough to imagine that he did so with tongue firmly in cheek, in the spirit of a training ground banter. Tello himself would go on the record to deny these reports, saying that Messi has a good relationship with everybody, but that wouldn't matter much, as he would spend the rest of the season in limbo. By the end of a trophyless season for Barcelona, Martino would get sacked and replaced by Luis Enrique, who would fully exclude Tello from his plans at Barcelona. and would loan him to FC Porto for a 2-year deal. Tello would struggle at first in Porto before finding his form in the second half of the season, scoring a hat-trick against Sporting before a leg injury would take him out for the rest of the season and finishing second in the league. The following season things would get worse for Cristian as he would go on playing 11 games in the league, scoring 0 goals before Julian Lopetegui, the coach who wanted him at the club, would get sacked and get replaced with Jose Pizarro, who would drop him from his plans and force him to find a new club. He would get loaned to Fiorentina, where he would finish the rest of his season, scoring twice and assisting 4 times, finishing 5th in the league and helping the team qualify for the Europa League the following season. This would prompt the Viola to extend his loan for another year under the request from then manager Paulo Sousa. This season he would contribute 11 goals, but that wouldn't be enough for either him or his manager, who would get sacked by the end of the season, and Cristian would be sent back to Barcelona. With new management at the club at the time and Ernesto Valverde, Tello wouldn't even play in the pre-season friendlies. It would get sold to Real Betis for 4 million euros. His first game in the league would happen to be in the Camp Nou, but he would miss out that game due to a torn muscle injury. At Betis, he would go on to play all 4 seasons in his contract, a total of 172 games, becoming an essential part of the team, scoring 24 goals and giving out 20 assists, as well as helping the team win the Copa del Rey for the first time in 17 years. His contract would end that season and he would make a move to the MLS at age 31, joining LAFC, playing only in 5 games in the regular season, where the club would win the Supporters' Shield. In the playoffs, he would spend the majority of the time on the bench. He would play in the final, where the game would go on to penalties, and he would go on to take the first kick, but he would miss. However, the game would end in the favor of LA Galaxy, winning the MLS Cup as well. In January, he would move to Saudi, playing for Al Fateh, where he would play 14 games and contributing 10 goals, helping the team finish 6th, the best finish for the club since 2018. The following season, he would finish the year with 12 goals and 4 assists to his name, before making a move to the recently promoted side Al Aroba this past August, scoring 2 goals by the time of making of this video. So what happened to Cristian? Was it really Messi's alleged words to him that sent his career off the rails? Or was it lack of trust by managers? Or maybe it was the constant muscle injuries across his careers? Having watched Cristian in his early season with Barca as well as his later season with Betis, all I can say is that there was a good foundation for a world-class player. But that was it. Just foundations with no building blocks on top of it. He simply didn't have the level to fight for a spot at Barca, especially with the likes of Pedro and Alexis Sanchez in the club at the time. This without mentioning Neymar Jr., who would dominate the left side at Barca since his arrival. Therefore, Cristian knew he didn't stand a chance and went to look for more playing time elsewhere, which I'm glad he did, as he would go on to have a good career, especially with Real Betis, and winning trophies there in the US. Cristian's name and legacy deserve to be more than the player who was allegedly called a nobody by Messi, as only a few players can say that they scored the hat-trick for Barcelona, especially in the era of Leo Messi.